Hey, so this week I'm going to have a little chat about AI, something I don't have a ton of experience with, but something that we're all learning new stuff about all the time. So, as I mentioned before, I found a job ad that listed as one of the requirements that you have experience with AI prompts. And they specifically mentioned Firefly. Now, Firefly is part of the Adobe suite. Photoshop and Illustrator are also introducing AI into their things. But Firefly is the dedicated AI bit of Adobe. And so many companies use Adobe that it's a natural jump for those companies to go straight to Firefly because it's got a similar interface to all the other Adobe products, but very importantly, because Adobe is such a big company that they don't want to be hit with a bunch of copyright suits from the people like you and me that they're pulling their writing and image editing from. So basically, AI goes through the internet, finds samples of people writing, finds samples of illustrations and artworks, grinds them all up, and produces what they call something new. There are some actors and writers, and certainly artists, who are suing AI developers because the way that AI comes up with their ideas is from us. Some AIs are less worried about this than Adobe would be, but because Adobe is such a standard for designers and filmmakers, to a certain extent, the images that they use are images that are out of copyright. So for this reasons, there are not problems with copyright, no matter how many of those out of copyright images and writing that they use. The problem is, it tends to be old images. So I did some experiments last semester, and I said three people sitting in a French cafe, and they all had bell bottoms and long hair and big afros, and they basically looked like a bunch of people from the 60s because the images that they had taken them from were from this out of copyright stuff in the 60s. So, what do you do about this as designers entering this brave new world? You familiarize yourself with AI, and there's a bunch of them out there. I've got a list on Brightspace, but there's other ones out there. And I think it's important that you definitely get used to Firefly because that's the one that people are kind of expecting you to know because it's Adobe. AI is changing all the time and it's learning from everybody all the time. So we need to keep on top of what AI is capable of and how it can screw up. For instance, making a bunch of young people these days look like hippies from the 60s or the 70s. So that's not going to work for us. I also heard this story from the chairman of the European Bank, of all people, that she asked about the price of butter in 2019 and then what is the price of butter today. And it was one number and there was the other number, but the AI got it backwards. The AI screwed up. So, like everything else, you cannot rely on these kinds of technologies to be accurate all the time. You have to be on top of these things. You have to learn how to work with these technologies and find out what their weaknesses are. I mean, think of it this way: AI is based on everything that we humans have invented, created, discovered. So that's all the stuff that we know has gone in there. Everything we've invented, created, discovered, it's not always right. So you think of a computer just getting everything precisely right. But if it's based on what we do, making itself more human means that it would make more mistakes the way humans make mistakes. This is something we need to bring to the table. We know AI can do these things. We also know there can be issues with it. So I can't give you an overview of where AI is now. There's lots of people talking about it online. I highly recommend that you do some searching on the internet. I will look for things too, but the fact is, I can show you stuff and then the next day a new thing will come along. You need to try and read some articles and listen to some conferences, listen to some speakers, see what people are saying, see how people are using it. When you meet people in the industry, some designer works at an ad agency. You go to them and say, how are you guys using AI? The most direct, easiest person I heard talking about this develops video games. And he was using it for creating an environment within which the players would play. So, we have robots fighting on Mars, and we're doing the artwork for this, and we got the robot characters. Now create a landscape that looks like Mars where they can fight, and there's mountains in the background. So you put that into AI, bang, there it is. And they don't necessarily use that in the final product of the video game, but it gets the ball rolling. It's like a first draft. So you don't necessarily have to know how to do this, but knowing the way people use AI is an incredibly useful tool, useful knowledge that you can bring to an office. And when people say, could you please recreate the Mona Lisa for me and, have her dancing the cha-cha, you need to be able to say, yes, that will work, or no, that won't work, or maybe this is a stupid idea. You have to be able to have that conversation with your bosses because you know what it can do and you can know how it can screw it up and get it wrong. Like that very simple calculation that the European bank boss had, asking one simple question, immediately screwed it up. It's a little scary that it can be that wrong. And then last spring, the Washington Post did an exercise, which was they put in a prompt and said, people working in an office. So all of them were white, all of them were men. This was an AI called Stable Diffusion, by the way. Stable Diffusion. You might want to take a look at it. It's one of those freebies online. And then they asked for images of people going to social services. Most of them were women. All of them were people of color. And then what gets really weird is that the companies start to say, okay, our AI is being racist. We need to be more woke. We need to be more aware of racism. We need to be more even-handed. So the people creating the AI, not the people using the AI, but people creating it, the algorithms, we need to show people of all backgrounds doing all kinds of things. But of course it backfired because they started to rewrite history in very weird ways. They started to show people of all kinds of colors and backgrounds in just bizarre scenarios. Like, they had a black Nazi in World War II gear. And this is not the lieutenant governor from North Carolina, but a Nazi in the German army in World War II who was black, which definitely never happened. But this is what the AI thought we wanted to see. And then we have a female, and I think she's Japanese, and she's in the full gear of the German army, World War II, and this definitely did not happen. It's trying to please you, but it's not representing reality. So you as a designer, you need to be aware that AI can just spout the most incredible bullshit that not everyone is going to recognize immediately. Your boss, for instance, I suspect your boss will know that there were no black or Japanese women in the German army. There's all kinds of different contexts that this can happen. So you need to play around and see what the strengths and weaknesses of AI are and just how you can fix those. I suspect doing simple, easy things that will make your life easier and your boss's life easier in an office situation, that would be a really good thing to know. There's all kinds of little tricks you can do in Photoshop, extending backgrounds and adding characters that you can automatically do it. But, I tried the other day to do an automatic silhouette, and it did kind of a good job, but kind of a good job is not a good job. And I had to go and fix it, and it was like, might as well just do this myself. If it's on a nice clean background, you can just go bang and it will do it, but then you can kind of do that already. So again, try it out, see what the capabilities are, because the capabilities are amazing. It just needs to be what you need it to be, not what it thinks you want it to be, because they will screw it up. Now, one of the things that AI has a problem doing is human beings. I'm kind of glad to hear that. But it's the kind of thing that might just slip by if you're not looking out for it. For instance, they'll give people 8 fingers, or they'll put the eye down in the lower cheek, or have 3 ears, like just weird things, because the AI is trying to create a human being out of nothing at all, and creates these really bizarre monsters. And I have some samples of that. I'll talk to you